So you're doing a painting and you're looking at that painting and you know, there's something wrong with it. I can't figure out what's wrong with it. But what you're going to learn today is going to help you figure out what's wrong with it and how you can fix it. Aaron Schuerr is here. Aaron, what are you going to teach us?
So what I'm going to do today is we're going to find how to make things right, not what's wrong with it. No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this. This is a plein air painting I did in the Beartooth Mountains. And what I'm going to teach you and demonstrate is flat color plane exercises. So if you could imagine, I gave you a pile of colored paper. And I told you you had to collage the landscape, cut out simple shapes and put them together to make the landscape. That's essentially what I'm going to do with paint. And what that's going to help you learn is how to simplify things, how to hit the average color of the whole form, and how to design in a very natural way that doesn't feel forced, and also how to get to the point quickly. So this is the technique that I use sometimes in the studio to plan studio pieces, but it's also really the way I approach plein air painting, how to get the basics going quickly so that I can really have time to play and embellish and do all those fun things to finish.
You know, one of the things I discovered, Aaron, you know, I went for years without really simplifying things. And once I started focusing on big shapes, you know, I could get the big shapes in 2 minutes. And then
Mhm.
all the fun stuff was laying in the trees and the shadows and all that other stuff. And it felt like my paintings suddenly came alive. They were easier to read, but they also were not as difficult to do. But you
Right.
know what everybody wants to do is they want to start out by noodling every little tree instead of
Mhm.
putting in that foundation. So this is going to be exciting. Let's get right to it. Well, let's get this show officially started.
All right, so I'm gonna move.
It's Art School Live with Eric Rhoads. Now, here's your host, Eric Rhoads.
Hey, welcome to Art School Live. We're here every weekday at 12 noon and have been for the last 5 years or so. We came when COVID started. Our guest today is Aaron Schuerr. He is a rock star, but not just in one area. He's a rock star in two areas. He's a brilliant pastelist and he's a brilliant oil painter. Today's going to be painting in oil and teaching you in oil, but let's look at some of his work just so you get a feel for what a great painter he really is. Can you imagine how that you look at that and you go, I don't see how you simplify that at all. But this is what we're going to learn today with this specific painting. And so you're going to learn a lot about painting. And we know that if you watch just 5 of our programs where we're teaching painting, you will get the confidence to know, you know what, you can do this. I was out painting yesterday. I'm taking this giant canvas, about 3 feet by 4 feet, and a big studio easel. And I took it down to the base of the waterfall, working on this giant painting of the waterfall. And people are coming up and talking to me and they're like, I wish I could do that. I don't have any talent. I can't draw a stick figure. And I'm constantly saying, you can do this. All you got to do is learn a system. And so this program provides you for free how to learn a system. Today we've got Aaron Schuerr. So Aaron, you're all set up. Let's do this.
All right, how's that look? Let me
Yeah, that looks great.
adjust this just a little bit. How's that?
That's perfect.
Okay. So, and then I forgot the second thing. If we have time, this is a big if. I'm going to do a value exercise to finish. So that'll be a bonus. Just
Bonus.
stick around, and if I'm efficient enough with this first part, we shall see. All right. So, what I want to look at here, what I'm going to do with this one is I'm actually going to take a step backwards, and I'm going to just do a simple exercise marrying value and basic color, average color of the whole form. That's the thing to get in your mind. And um, and then in doing so, what I want to do is just do a little recomposing. I like how this painting turned out. I'm happy with it. But I feel like if I wanted to go up to a larger size, you've got these diagonals that are moving from left to right down this way. And I've kind of stopped them with these trees here and then with these counter angles here. But on a larger painting, I feel like it might be too separate, unrelated. So I want this area to relate more to the background mountains in here. So what I want to do is, just to try this out, is to counterbalance it. So have these near trees and then have a second layer of meadow and trees and then the mountains and then kind of tuck them in a little bit more. So that's just a concept I'm playing with. And I like the word play when we're
Play.
doing this.
I like play.
Okay, so what you want to be using for your tools in this exercise. I do this on often in the landscape, plein air, where I'll do these exercises. And the idea is 30 minutes or less on these, because I find with students when I'm teaching workshops, if I do more than 30 minutes, if they spend more than 30 minutes on these exercises, they start making a painting. And what I want you to do is to think in terms of just basic values. So I'm just going to do just a quick little, just a few little lines here. Play with, not much. So I want to have the meadow kind of coming down here. And then I want to have a counterbalance here, right? So a little bit larger there. Maybe we'll go a little bit higher here, I think, because I don't want it to go down to this corner. That would be what you call a tangent. So we'll go somewhere, maybe about to there. So we'll have that roll, and then we'll have mountains coming here, somewhere in there. And we might add a few clouds in just to, and then we'll have kind of our anchor tree somewhere in here. We'll trees there, and then we'll bring some down. And there's going to be, what I want to try to create is a conversation between these foreground trees, like their neighbors,
Hey,
yelling
neighbor.
across the fence, to background trees, and then up into the mountains there. So to move you through. That's my rough idea. I'm not going to do any more than that. If I was working on location, I might block in a little bit more than that. But what I want to do here is I want to think about using the biggest brush possible and massing in the forms for this exercise. So there's two ways of blocking. I mean, it was probably more than two ways, but two basic ways of blocking in. One is to draw in, so I'm going to draw in the shapes. The other way is to mass in, and massing in is, and I'll go a little bit lighter here, I think, because the sun was hitting those trees and there was some shadow. So I'm going to go, when I'm starting this first form, I want to think of what's the average color and value of the whole form.
So do you
There
do
was
that
a,
by you do
sorry,
that
go ahead.
do you do that by squinting down?
Yes. Squint for values, open your eye for color. So what I had, and I want to have this conversation with myself when I'm out painting, especially it's in the morning, the light's going to change, right? Sun's going to come up overhead. When I started in the morning, this is probably about 8:45 in the morning, the light was raking across from the side from left to right. So it's pushing your shadows down to the right. And I knew the sun was going to come up over those shadows were going to swing. So I want to have that conversation with myself. Even though these are dark forms, they were getting more light than shadow. So I had basically probably about an 80-20. So 80% light and 20% shadow. So those are conversations I want to have with myself when I'm starting. And that's where a thumbnail sketch can also be really valuable, right? Because I can quick get that down and remember that. So then what I want to try to do when I'm out painting on location, a full painting, is I want to be able to stretch my time a little bit, right? So the light here, I probably have an hour. But if I'm really quick, I don't want to say quick, slow is smooth is fast. That's in manufacturing. So if I'm deliberate, with my shapes right away using the biggest brush, thinking of average value, average color. I'm going to buy myself some time because I'm going to get your basic light shadow shapes put in simply. And then I'm going to be able to go back and play around if I want with some more detail at the end, even if the light has changed. So notice I'm not, you know, I'm doing the whole thing, the one value, and what that's allowing me to do is just look at how these shapes relate to each other. And the main difference between, you know, this and you know, a finished piece, or, you know, if I was doing a full plein air painting, is I'm just laying the paint down as solidly as I can. I might be, you know, if I'm plein air painting, I might go a little bit lighter, a little thinner, so that I can layer up more. But I'm not going to do much layering on this. So right now we still have this, you know, I want to think about got this strong angle here.
Yep.
So let's bring in that. There's that foreground tree. Linked dark shapes, that's another concept to think about. So these, you know, I'm not thinking 1, 2, 3, 4 trees. I'm thinking what's an interesting silhouette, the whole thing. So my negative spaces, I'm already thinking about those, the variety in those spaces. So again, like what you're saying before, if you start off with just getting all excited about all the little details in there, you're not going to be able to see the shapes. You're going to lose the forest for the trees, literally.
Literally.
So I've got this large mass here. I might break this up a little bit more than it is in my study. Tell you what, doing this one was, you know, argument number 435 or whatever of the benefit of painting on location. When I was setting up to paint, I had right coming through here, and then behind me, there was an enormous herd of elk and with calves. And the cow elk will cow call, and to try to get the calves to come, and the calves will respond. And so I'm setting up my easel, and I was just surrounded by elk. So I'm going to move back into this plane. So what's going to happen here in terms of atmospheric perspective, even though I don't have a reference that shows me more distant trees, I'm going to go on my experience of painting lots and lots of landscapes. So we'll see how this goes. I've just added to my mix just a little bit of white and a little bit of blue. We'll see if that, you know, I'm going to add a little bit of ochre to that. Just feels a little too cold. So you can see it's pretty subtle, the difference. I don't know how well I hope that's showing up on your screens.
It's kind of hard because that canvas is a little further away.
Oh, do you want me to move this over a little bit?
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. Okay.
I think we could put the reference photo in the corner.
Is that looking a little better?
Yeah, can you get closer, or will it crowd you?
Yeah. I can just paint over it.
Awesome.
Are we getting glare, or is it? Let's see. How's that?
Much better.
Okay, great. Yeah, the nice thing about I'm just painting right over the iPad. Okay, so I've got these, you know, this is a connected shape here, and then I've got this second connected shape here. So now what I want to do is I want to get my shadow shapes in. They're going to be a little bit, they're getting that sky effect, so they're going to be a little cooler, a little bluer. And when I can, so I didn't have enough room to, thought about mixing vertically so you could see it. I've done that before, but I realized you know, there'd just be too much to fit on that screen. So, but what I'm doing on these is I'm mixing off of my mixes. So, you know, these are all like families. So I have a large pile that I started with, and then I mixed a little bit of white, blue, and ochre into that one. I'm mixing a little bit more blue into this shadow here. And so then I have, and in terms of the brush, I haven't had to clean my brush yet because it's still in the same color family, right? And so I just took the paper towel, wiped it from the bottom up, wiped that excess paint off, and then mixed. So okay, let's just stay in our foreground here. You know, my study, I can see lots of different little nuances in the greens, but I'm just going for one. So again, just as a reminder, imagine like all of this right now, we could have collaged, like if I had colored paper, I could have cut this out and gotten these shapes, right? So as soon as I look at it and I say, well, I couldn't do that, then I've gone beyond what the exercise is. Does that make sense? Okay. So right now I am mixing a brighter yellow. I'm using cad yellow light, and I'm getting really bold. I'm using a little bit of phthalo turquoise. Now let's go a little bit lighter. I'm adding a little bit more white. I want to be careful with white and my greens because white's going to really cool things off. But I think that's going to be okay. So test my color. Yeah, I think we're getting pretty close there. See if that, you know, I can also match it to my original painting. Okay, I think we got it now. Yeah, let's try that. So now what I say that again. Now I'm starting to come in and fill in some of this negative space. So I want to be thinking about how that affects these positive forms, the trees and shadows. So I'm going to sneak up on my color here. I want to keep my color really clean. One of the things I see happen sometimes when I'm teaching workshops is, you know, I'll look at a student's palette and the color will be gorgeous on the palette, right? And then I look at their painting and the colors feels mucky and it's gotten muddy. And it took me a little while when I was teaching to, you know, what happened. And usually it's two things that have happened. One is they have not mixed enough color on the palette. You know, they be extravagant with your color mixes. So I'm going to clean that brush. I'm getting a little bit of the darker green in there. It's coming through the brush, so I'm going to actually clean the brush with mineral spirits. Okay, so let me go back to that. So the general rule is mix, and especially for this exercise, mix a lot more color than you think you need. In fact, I'm going to have to remix here. I should have mixed about twice as much as I did. Should practice my own medicine. You don't want to have to come back and remix, if at all possible, which I'm doing right now, and that costs me a little bit of time, right? And time is really important when you're, you know, doing a morning painting on location, if you can imagine. So I've just gone and I'm remixing. So now I have plenty of color. Okay, there we go. Get a little bit warmer here. So going back to where I see students struggle, not mixing enough paint, and they're afraid to put a lot of paint on the canvas because they're afraid it's going to get out of control if they put too much paint on the canvas. Well, if you can see, like, I have quite a bit of paint here. What I'm doing is I'm sneaking up on the other colors. So right now I have these little halos between the colors, and I will, and the other thing I want you to notice is that I'm doing a stroke or two, and as soon as I pick up, like, say here, I'll just give you an example. As soon as I come over that one, if I have too much paint there and I start catching the dark in there, I'm gonna just wipe that off. Keep that clean. So what I see happen with students, especially, say they're using a smaller brush, and I'm just going to give you a little example here, and then I'll fix it. They'll come up and they'll start, kind of trying to push that around and see how that, I'm somewhere in between, and I have muck right there. So don't want muck. So let's reestablish that. Nice and clean and simple. So there's a quote that I love from a writer that says, make extravagant mistakes. So put your color down with confidence, even if you don't feel confident.
I like that.
Yeah. Well, I don't, it doesn't matter how far along in your career. I've been painting for a lot of years now. And man, I still feel anxiety every time I start. And sometimes I feel anxiety well into the painting process. And I feel like the day I stop feeling that is the day I've stopped growing. I mean, I don't want the anxiety to rule me. I want the joy of it to be, at the heart of it. Um, but you should always feel a little bit like, "Ooh, what are we getting into?" Because that means you're really going to try. You're really trying something. But so, like, if I'm doing a finished painting, I might be playing around with little shifts of, like, warming this up, cooling that off a little bit more back here as you roll back into that back hill. But again, I want to hit this really hard. Average value and color of the whole form. So right now I have 1, 2, 3, just 3 colors, and you're starting to already get a sense of that shape. I mean, it's starting to read, even though I don't have any detail whatsoever. Okay, so I'm going to jump back to the next layer here. So what do I need to do? Same issue as from here to here. I need to cool that off a little bit. So I'm going to add a little bit of blue and white. See if that works. This is a really subtle jump. In the study, what I played with some, just to play with complements. I had some pinks underneath, and let some of that come through, just to give it a little, like, visual dance of of complements.
So Carl is asking, when do you want your negative shapes to mimic a collage cutout as if you were to cut it with scissors and there's no gaps?
I think I'm understanding the question. Yes. And I'll hit the negative shapes a little bit more when I do the mountains. So what I'm doing right now is I'm basically putting in each piece. And what I'll do when I get the mountains in some of these backgrounds is I will use that to cut in a little bit, like I'm cutting out a little bit more. So I think of the negatives, like I'm creating my positive shapes and I'm thinking about my negative shapes at the same time. So you can see, like, as an example here, let's refine this a little bit more. I might bring that up. And use the green here to essentially design the shadow. So rather than, like, trying to get that perfect shape, the perfect shape of the shadow, get it roughly where you want it. And then use your adjacent color to refine that shape. I hope that answers the question. Okay, so we've got one more layer of green that I want to play with. So I basically imagined another layer to these mountains. So instead of having that diagonal coming all the way down, now we have diagonal here, diagonal there. So I'm going to go a little cooler. I just took a little bit of white and a little bit of that phthalo turquoise. That's your dangerous color. I was in a part of an arts organization years ago that we were trying to come up with a mission statement, that and I always find, like, sometimes mission statements, that they use lots of words like engenders or fosters or community or and so sitting around like, is that really what we're about? And someone said, how about this? Friends don't let friends use phthalo. But that was pretty great. Friends don't let friends use phthalo. No, phthalo, if you haven't put it on your palette, it can be a really useful color, but man, it's just it's like glitter. It gets into everything.
Yeah, I took
So
it
you
on
want to
my
be
palette.
really careful with it if you use it. I like it primarily for when you get these, like, in the Rocky Mountain West, you get these beautiful turquoise skies, and I find I can't quite get that turquoise with just cobalt or ultramarine blue. Okay, see, I'm still using a big brush here. I'm just using the edge. I haven't actually switched my brush yet. So these are like you get these dry meadows sometimes as you're rolling up into the mountains. So I can use that color just to cut in. And again, I want you to notice in terms of paint handling, I've got a good amount of paint on the brush. And I want you to notice that I'm not carrying that paint very far before I go back and I reload the brush, right? Because if I carry it too far, then I start to drag paint from other parts. All right, so I'm going to take a new brush now because I'm switching color families. So let's grab the biggest brush I can. I'm going to grab a number, like a number 10, I think. And so we're going to start moving into these mountain shapes. So these are all related shapes all related colors in here. And now we're moving into our blues and then into our pinks. So I'm going to, I think I'm going to start with a palette knife on this one. So for me, mixing, I mostly mix with the brush and just I mix off mixes. The big exception is like what I'm doing right now is I'm gonna mix a 𝗦𝗶𝗺𝗽𝗆 with the palette knife. Because I know I need to mix a lot of paint to cover this area, and I know I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna get that color and I'm gonna maybe adjust it a little bit for back here and adjust it again, so I want to get basically one color going, and then that way I don't, like I did before, I had to remix, and it's really hard to match when you're trying to remix color. So let's see how this looks. That's not bad. Yeah, I think we're in the ballpark here. Okay, I will thin it a little bit. So even when I'm doing a finished painting, um, I'm rarely taking out a small brush until you know, often it's 2 hours into the painting process before I take out one of my smaller brushes. So again, I'm sneaking up on that other color, right? So I'm thinking in terms of the big masses. I think maybe one of the things that I'd like you to think about is it really does not matter um, where you line up in terms of um, subject matter. We are all abstract painters. Just the fact that we are um, taking a three-dimensional experience and putting it on a two-dimensional surface is a process of abstraction, right? So, so I could, you could take this in a more abstract direction. You could finish this to a high level of resolution. The process is abstract. So, and the reason I want to say that is I want you to um, think about elegant, interesting, dynamic shapes. So not trees, hills, mountains, but how do these shapes relate? I'm gonna go a little bluer here. Might get a smaller brush. I might run out of my skill with a number 10 brush coming into here. But see how I'm sneaking up on this? I don't know what I had in mind there. I'm gonna refine that shape. So I'm using the negative to refine the positive. So cutting in here and there. I want to go a little bit, sticking that a little bit. I want to go a little bit bluer on this whole. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to grab one size down on my brush. See, stroke, leave it. Yeah.
You guys have any questions, make sure to put them into the chat.
So I lost this shape here, so I try not to do this. You know, the goal is to just be able to, you know, put it and leave it, but I want to reestablish that shape. So I'm gonna come up. It's a little
Aaron?
lighter. Yeah.
Laura Lee is asking, how did you make the mountain blue color again?
The mountain is it's a good question. It's cobalt, white, and a little bit of alizarin.
Okay.
Very small amount of alizarin is primarily what I have for that. So I'm using the, you know, alizarin being a cooler red. Okay. Establish that shape. Check my study. And this is when I got to remind myself, you know, my tendency is going to be to want to start like, oh, let's play around with these little edges and get little nuances. But no, I want to keep this to the exercise, partly because this, I want to see if this design works for a, you know, I'm interested in doing a studio painting from this study. I mean, from, you know, from this plein air piece. And so this is giving me a chance to play around with it. So I will refine that shape. So I want it, there's a meadow that moved up into the hills there. Actually, it should be a little bit bluer. Let me fix that. So this is another way that I want to relate moving this up into the mountains, not having this hard line, but moving some of that that green meadow up into a little too up into the timbered hillside there.
I hope you guys are finding this helpful. Aaron, we're going to take a quick little break and you can get a drink of water or something. We'll be right back. Our guest today is Aaron Schuerr, and we're learning about basic shapes and the principle of really helping your painting read and simplify. Well, we have a whole bunch of stuff coming up. We have a big event coming up in just about, I don't know, 20 days or so, maybe 18 days or so. It's called Gouache Live, and it is teaching you some of the greatest techniques in using gouache. Gouache is a water-based medium. It's very popular right now. A lot of oil painters use it. A lot of watercolorists use it. And there's a time and place for every medium, and this is a good time to learn it. So come join us as we do a one-day event, Gouache Live, on August 23rd. It's a Saturday. It's $49 to attend, I think. 49, maybe 47. Anyway, it's very inexpensive, but very, very high quality. So I've got some great guests. Make sure you check it out at Gouache Live. Also, for your calendars, save the date. In November, we have our Art Business Mastery Day again this year. This year, we're putting it in November so you can get ahead of the new year and understand exactly how to make your year successful. So this is the time you should be planning it. Just mark that date down on your calendar and get signed up. We had 5,000 people last year. It's going to be even bigger this year, and we are changing lives. At least we hope we are. People tell us we are. Just go to artbizmastery.com. Okay, back to Aaron Schuerr.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay. There we go. So we are moving up the mountain. What's fun, like personally, about this mountain range, the 𝗏𝗏𝗃, is that I have backpacked my painting gear into these peaks back here, and
We
so
talked about that on the Plein Air podcast.
yeah. So I've done a couple of trips into these mountains to with my painting gear to paint, and painting and backpacking gear. And so I like, looking at a mountain range personally. This is some distance from the mountain range, but to be able to just to be able to think about that experience that I had, up in those peaks, what it was like. There's lakes back in there, and there's rugged peaks, and so I feel like part of what we're, as artists, we're obviously describing a place, but we're also trying to describe our experience. And so finding those places that are special to you, that you like to return to again and again, is really wonderful. Okay, so now so I just roughed in a few of those little shadows. So my next mix, I'm taking white and, let's see, a little bit of alizarin here. Let's see, and then I want to go and add a little bit of blue to that. Ultramarine, I believe. Let's see, I'm just checking. Yeah, here we go. And so, yeah, sorry. And I drifted off. I'm looking at that paint stroke. I have to do that in workshops sometimes where I'm teaching. I'll tell students, if I trail off, get me back on track. No, so this is where it's tricky, the shape exercise, because like I said in the beginning, I have a landscape here that's about 80% in light, 20% in shadow. I find that sometimes the shape exercises are a little bit easier when you have something backlit, where things are more silhouetted in shadow. So I have these very small little slivers of shadow in here, and I want to also be designing those. Oftentimes these little shadows can end up being afterthoughts, because you're thinking about, like, oh, what's the big shape of this whole mountain? But it's those little shadows are going to make it lively and interesting, right? And so I want to really pay attention to how those, both how they break up the larger shape, but also how they relate, almost musically. These little notes in here, how they create, just a little bit of visual rhythm. And we'll see if I can do this effectively in the study. And what I do like about my plein air piece is I just intentionally intensified the color a little bit in the peaks right there, just to make it a little bit more intentional in terms of the design and storytelling of the piece. Oh, we have a potential tangent here. Do you
Oh,
see
yes.
this?
Yes.
See how that's coming right up to?
Yeah. Would you tell people what a tangent is, please?
Absolutely, because it's a really important concept. So a tangent is, I can show you in a couple places where you could potentially have a tangent. So I have this diagonal here, and what if it hits right at that corner there? Well, that's going to be a tangent. It's essentially an arrow pointing you off of the canvas. Here, where I'm seeing this tangent, is my back mountain here is coming right up to this hill that's in front of it. What that's going to do is it's going to confuse the space. So it's going to make it feel like this here is coming in front of that back hill there in that case. So I want to either have two options here. One is let's try this one. I'm going to just bring this a little bit higher. Or I could have brought the mountain down a little bit more. So that way it's not hitting, these aren't meeting right at the edge there. So those are those little design principles that you want to really pay attention to, because what I joke about is that if you have a tangent, you get your painting and it's in some gallery show or something, and you have a tangent, like say here, what it does is it's an arrow that points to the next painting, and then the person buys the painting next to yours, and you feel sad because your painting's in sell. It's because you pointed to you said, hey, look at that, look at the next painting, not at mine. Again, this is
How could anybody buy any painting but yours? That's how I feel.
Right. No, I'm often happy when usually it's another artist that I know, and I'm happy when they make their sale. I feel like we're all in this together.
That's right.
100%.
Hey, you guys, if you're getting anything out of this, and of course you are, what have you realized that this is helpful? Put something in the comments so we understand what's really speaking to you about this. I have had a couple of aha moments. I'm curious to know what yours are.
So what I love about doing this exercise, one, even though this is a fast exercise, and I say, when you're doing it on your own, put a timer on, give yourself at most 30 minutes to do these. I don't feel like I'm hurrying at all. If you notice, like, I'm being really, really deliberate with each stroke. In fact, I almost feel like in some ways I'm going slower, because I feel like each shape here matters. And I want to keep my color really clean. So that means I am, just really deliberately laying that paint down.
Carl is asking, when you're painting in plein air, do you ever hold your brush or maybe a palette knife with the color on it against the mountain in the background, just to see if to pretend to paint the form in the mountain, then translate it back to the canvas? I think what he's saying.
That's a great question. I do. And it's you can't get like a perfect because you're holding it and the light shining on your brush and it's shining on the mountain. But yeah, to like that, sometimes that's my first, like, okay, am I in the ballpark with this color? I'll hold it up and look at say the mountain behind it. Because sometimes I can see, like, oftentimes what happens is I'll realize that the color I've mixed is either too strong, or it's too dark. So that'll at least get me a good starting point.
Right.
And then you can see even on this one, a lot of times I touch a little color onto the canvas and see if it's
Did you just have a birthday, or is that today?
it was yesterday.
Yesterday. Happy
Yeah.
birthday. Everybody get
Thank
in there
you.
and give him accolades. I promise I will not sing.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm getting up there.
Yeah, well, you've got a lot of catching up to do. So we're about 3 to 4 minutes out from our ending time. I know that you just wanted
Okay,
to
let me get some sky in here and a little bit of white. All right. Felt like it was, boy, that goes really fast. I think you said as much, didn't you?
I did.
All right.
I said it goes by
Okay, we're
really.
gonna get this covered. We're gonna get this covered. All
All
right,
right.
so I'm gonna do yeah, one color, one value for the sky, and we'll try to get in a few of those little snow fields.
It's
But I hope that
interesting.
what you
That
can
reads
see.
pretty, it reads pretty well just with the white in the background. So how do you determine what value the sky should be? Do you find that students tend to make them too dark, too light?
I would say it's easy to make them too dark. Um, I'm just gonna grab a big brush since we have a few minutes. Um, yeah, because the sun, I think the sky, what's tricky is you've got this, it's such a clean color, right? You know, the sky. Um, and and you've got this, you know, this rich blue color, and so it's easy to make it too dark. And I find that one of the really telltale signs that someone has relied too much on a photo is their skies will be artificially dark. I find that for whatever reason, the camera tends to make the sky dark.
Yeah, it's going for
Um,
averages.
yeah, and so that's something to be really careful. If you are, you know, we all, you know, there's times when you can't always get out there and paint on location. So I'm not saying you shouldn't paint from photographs, but you know, I think part of the task of developing as an artist is learning how to analyze photographs.
Well, I've been doing a big studio piece, and I did it from studies, and I did it from photographs. And I
Yeah,
decided to
that's
take it out to the waterfall yesterday. It's a giant piece, so it wasn't easy. And my colors were way off. And so I basically repainted the whole thing on location. Still
yeah.
not done, but it's amazing how much seeing it in person changes everything.
Yeah, and that's I've been, you know, it's funny, I built this recently. My wife and I built a studio, and I thought, well, you know, I'm gonna do lots more big studio paintings. And I'm this year I've done more plein air painting than I think any year that I've painted. And I've been starting to do large paintings, multi-session paintings on location. And I love it.
It's so much fun.
I love being able to just go back to the same place. You know, 4, 5, 6. Well, I think my largest piece this year that I did on location was 32 by 40, and it was like 10 sessions on location. And yeah, it's so fun.
Hey, Aaron, why don't you come on camera real quickly because we're going to have to wrap up. This
Okay.
has been very helpful. I want to tell everybody that Aaron's got a couple of really terrific videos that we have produced. We do in-depth, really high quality videos, and he's got a couple of them that he's produced. We'll pull those
Yeah.
up. One is called Winter Sunset in Pastel. The next one is Storytelling with Landscapes. And he's got a brand new one coming out next week. So we're pretty excited about that. And it's an oil painting video. So you're going to love that. And so watch for it in your email. And also, Aaron's going to be part of the Pastel Live faculty. Aaron,
Yay.
thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh, this is so much fun. And I hope that was, I hope it's valuable for people. And just remember to have time to play. And I think this is playing here. And that's where we make our discoveries.
Yeah, I think everybody learned a lot. If you guys learned something, make sure you put it in the comments today so we know what you learned. And make sure to follow Aaron. We've got all his contact information, social media information in the chat. So, Aaron, thanks again. And we really appreciate this today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's good,
All right.
good fun.
If you guys want Aaron's videos, just go to painttube.tv, painttube.tv/ASL. You can look him up, Aaron Schuerr. And also, we have a free gift for you today. Thank you for watching. If you're new to us, we have this ebook. It's really good. It's 201 essential plein air tips master the art of outdoor painting. We've taken some of the best things we've done in Plein Air Magazine and others and put it together. So go to pleinairmagazine.com/ebook and make sure, of course, that you subscribe to this program. Just go to YouTube and hit subscribe. Many of you are watching on other platforms. We love that. If you go to YouTube and subscribe, that'd be good. But follow us on whatever platform you're on so that when we go live, you'll get notified. And thank you for being here every weekday. This has been really terrific. Have a terrific day today. Bye-bye.